everyone, welcome to Learn Science with Divya. Today I am going to start first chapter of class 12 biology, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So let's start the chapter. Let's first discuss about reproduction. What is reproduction? It is the process by which organisms give rise to offsprings. In this chapter we are going to talk about plants. So in plants there are of two types, asexual and sexual. What is a sexual reproduction? In which both male and female gametes are present. Okay, so in plants only some have the specialized characteristic to produce offsprings from sexual reproduction, and they are known as flowering plants or angiosperms. Okay, so in flowering plants, sexual reproduction involves three major events. First one is pre-fertilization event, second is fertilization, and third is post-fertilization event. We will discuss them one by one. Now, let's first discuss about structure of a flower. Okay, so what is a flower? If we have to define flower, we will say flower is a modified condensed shoot specialized to carry out sexual reproduction in higher plants. It means only flower has this capability to carry out sexual reproduction. Okay, and flower arises from a small leaf-like structure called bract. Okay, so this is known as bract. From here flower arises. Now let's focus on this diagram of a flower. So this is a typical angiospermic flower. Here you can see there are many parts. Okay, and all the floral appendages are supported by a structure known as thalamus or receptacle. Okay, now what is thalamus? Thalamus is a terminal part of the axis of a flower which supports all the floral appendages. Okay, now a typical angiospermic flower consists of 4 whorls. Okay, and they all are attached to a receptacle. They are known as calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Okay, of these, calyx and corolla are sterile. What is the meaning of sterile? Not able to reproduce. And they are considered as non-essential, accessory or just helping whorls. And androecium and gynoecium are fertile. What is the meaning of fertile? They are able to reproduce and they are considered as essential or reproductive whorls. Okay, let's discuss them one by one. Let's first talk about calyx. Are the outermost whorl of floral leaves. Here, this is the part. This is calyx. And what we say them individually? They are known as sepal if they are present individually. If there are more than one sepal present, we give them term calyx. This is the outermost part of a flower. What is its function? It protects the other floral appendages inner to it, and it also sometimes attracts the pollinators. Now, second one is petal. Petal is an individual term for corolla. The first one is calyx, second is corolla. Corolla is inner to calyx. So you can see here the petals or corolla are bright in colors. Why bright? To attract the pollinators. Okay, now let's talk about androecium and gynoecium. Androecium is also known as stamen if present individually. Okay, and stamen has 2 parts. First one is anther and second one is filament. Here you can see this is anther and this is filament. So this is a male reproductive part of a flower. Okay, we will discuss it later in detail. And fourth part is gynoecium. Where is gynoecium? This part is known as gynoecium. It has three distinct parts. First one is ovary. It is a swollen part where ovules are developed. Second one is this style, and third is stigma. Stigma is a part where pollen grains are attached and they are transferred to the ovary through style. I hope this diagram is clear to you all. Now let's move forward. Let's do a quick revision. What is calyx? It is the outermost wall of floral leaves, and individual leaf segment is known as sepal. Now there is a condition known as petaloid. What is petaloid? Where sepals are colored like petals. So there is no distinction between both of them. What is the function of calyx? They help in protection of other floral appendages. They prevent rapid transpiration of the inner floral parts of a flower. Okay. Second one is corolla. It is a second wall of floral leaves. If individual leaf is present, it is known as petal. They are brightly colored and sometimes they provide fragrance. What is their basic function? To attract pollinators and help in pollination. Okay. And sepals and petals together are known as floral envelope. Okay. If complete floral envelopes are present in a flower, meaning if sepals and petals both are present in a flower, that condition is known as perianth. Third thing is staple. What is staple? When a floral envelope is not clearly differentiated, meaning when sepals and petals are not clearly differentiated. So third one is androecium. It is a third wall, and if individual appendage is present, it is known as stamen. What stamen represents? It represents male reproductive organ, and it is consist of two parts, anther and filament. Anther and filament are connected through a portion known as connective. Fourth one is gynoecium. Gynoecium is a fourth and last wall inner to the androecium. And if individual appendage is present, it is known as carpel. It represents female reproductive organ. It is consist of three distinct parts: ovary, style and stigma. I hope this is clear to you all. Now let's talk about our first event, that is known as pre-fertilization event. Okay, so what happens in pre-fertilization? We just talked about a flower. Now how the flower is formed? There are some conditions. First, there are some hormonal and structural changes that help in development of a floral primordium. What is floral primordium? It is an undeveloped bud that is in process of developing on a plant stem that serves as the earliest recognizable stage in the formation of a flower. So we can also say that in pre-fertilization event, first floral primordium is formed. Okay, then the inflorescences are developed. What are the inflorescences? Arrangement of a cluster of flowers on a floral axis. We can also say that buds start forming and they start bearing flowers, and at last flowers are formed. Okay, so these are the pre-fertilization events. Now how the male and female gametes are formed, we will discuss them. So today we are going to discuss about male reproductive organ and how it is formed. Okay, so let's first talk about stamen. So here is a diagram of a stamen. We just talked about stamen contains two things. First one is anther and second one is filament. Okay, and both are connected through a structure known as connective. Now anther is a bilobe structure. What is the meaning of bilobe? It means it has two lobes and each lobe has two theca. Okay, so we can also say that it is dithecous. What is the meaning of theca? Theca is a sheath or protective covering, and all the theca contains microsporangium. Okay, and what is a microsporangium, or what are microsporangia? They are the microscopic structures that become pollen sacs after development, and they are responsible for producing microspores, which mature into male gametes or pollen grains. So we can also say that in plants, male gametes are known as pollen grain. And how they are developed? First, microsporangia is formed. Microsporangia then becomes pollen sac. Okay, so let me write here. First, microsporangia are formed, then pollen sacs are formed, then they produce microspores, and finally through microspores pollen grains are formed, and pollen grain represents what? Male gametes. Okay, this is the enlarged image of an anther. Here you can see that a longitudinal groove is running and separating the theca, and these theca contain microsporangium that develops in the pollen grains. Okay, focus on this diagram, and let's first talk about a young anther. So this is a transverse section of a young anther. First, let me explain it. A young anther contains actively dividing meristematic cells, and they are surrounded by a layer of epidermis, and then they become two lobes, and each lobe has two pollen sacs. Okay, and these pollen sacs are situated at four corners of the anther. Okay, now when the anther is young, it is composed of some sporogenous tissues. Okay, what are sporogenous tissue? They are homogeneous cells. You know what is tissue? It is a group of cells. So sporogenous tissues are formed of homogeneous cells. Homogeneous means they have similar structure and same function. Okay, now come to the diagram. So it is a structure of a young anther. Here you can see that it contains sporogenous tissue in the center. Okay, these sporogenous tissues are responsible for forming microspores. We will discuss them later. And the young anther is surrounded by epidermis. It is the outer layer. Then inner to it is endothecium, and then there is a middle layer. Middle layers are present in one or more than one layer, and last one is tapetum. Okay, and here you can see connective. What is connective? That connects anther to the filament. Now let's talk about the functions of these layers. So the first three layers, that are epidermis, endothecium and middle layers, their function is to protect the growing pollen grains and help in their dehiscence. And the fourth one, tapetum, its function is to nourish the growing pollen grain, and their cells have dense cytoplasm. Okay, so point to be noted, in tapetal cell a condition happens that is known as endomitosis. In this condition, the nucleus becomes binucleate, or we can say that the nucleus divides, but the cell itself fails to undergo cytokinesis. So they do not have cytokinesis. And what is cytokinesis? Where the division of the cytoplasm takes place. So this results in two nuclei remaining within the single cell and making it binucleate. Now let's talk about the process microsporogenesis. Okay, we just talked about sporogenous tissue. Okay, so sporogenous tissues have many cells and each cell is capable of producing microspore tetrad. Okay, so we can also say that this is a one cell and it is producing 4 microspores. Okay, and they are haploid and each one is a microspore mother cell. Now come to this diagram. Here meiosis or meiotic division is taking place. So meiosis occurs in all sexually reproducing organisms that produces gametes by reducing the number of chromosomes by half. We can say that 2n is getting converted into n. Okay. Now this is a pollen mother cell we just discussed and it is how many number of chromosomes? 2n. So it undergoes meiosis division, then it forms microspore tetrad. Here 4 microspores are formed and they further go mitotic division and forms many pollen grains, or we can say many microspores. So this process where diploid mother cell or pollen mother cell undergoes meiosis to produce 4 haploid microspores, which then develops into pollen grains within the pollen sac of the anther, is known as microsporogenesis. I hope this is clear to you all. So that's all for today.